Hello and welcome to the Philippines. This is some video from a while back before the lockdown, and it's a trip, a motorbike habal taxi from Mactan Island over to Cebu City. Oh,
Hi!
hey, are you married? Are you married? Oh, maybe we.
Single?
You single? Ah, oh, right.
And you are?
Wala cuarta.
Oh, Bisaya?
You got money, I got the time. Anyway, this was a little later in the evening, and couldn't find any taxis fast. One guy pulled up, and a lot of times these hobble hobble drivers, motorbike taxis, if there's two of you or three of you, they all kind of work together, and they'll flag over somebody else if you need two drivers. And this is what happened. One guy stopped and understood we needed another rider, and he flagged down another driver. And it's interesting. It's my cheap thrill every couple of weeks, every week or so when traffic is running. So I have a little bit of news to talk about. I've got some thoughts and additional predictions, and anyway, we'll talk about some of that as we go along here. This is the old bridge. There are two bridges presently. There's a four-lane bridge over to the right, some distance, and I've walked across this bridge a number of times during the daytime. And it's interesting. A lot of girls out there walking day and night, and they feel safe, and I feel safe out there as well. Under the present circumstances, I think once the economy picks up again, I think things will be a little more dangerous. During this lockdown, crime has gone way down, 50, 60% in many parts of the Philippines. But I suspect there's a lot of desperate people out there, and I suspect that when the when things are open back up at some point in time, crime will reintroduce itself. Desperate people will do desperate things, so there will be more of those. There's over 100 million people in the Philippines, in a land area about the same size as Arizona or same size as Nevada. So that's a lot of people. If only 1% of those are bad people, that's still a million people in a very small, relatively small area. Uh, if 1%, I think Arizona has about 7 million people. 1% there would be, what, 70,000 people versus a million. So anyway, going to have to be more cautious in the future going ahead. Some good news for seniors. I've seen the news, and I hope it's accurate that under the general quarantine that many places are under now, and hopefully Cebu at the start of June, Cebu and other places will go from enhanced to the more general quarantine. Things will loosen up additionally. There will still be restrictions on some travel, quite a bit of travel. The airlines are talking about starting up service again at a lesser percentage. But seniors are no longer listed under, you better stay in. What they've done is people under 21 years of age are told that they are still restricted, according to the news that I've seen, and seniors are allowed to go out. But where the restriction comes is that if you have health issues, you're supposed to stay inside. You know, that's a discussion for another time, but we'll touch on it here. Sunlight, the sun, has so many benefits being outdoors. You're more apt to get diseases, viruses, germs inside where you're confined to an area. Of course, if you're there all by yourself, that's another issue. But being out in the sun, having your body help turn sunlight into vitamin D, which is a big plus. big help against diseases and health overall. And so it seems a little counterproductive to tell people, well, you can't go outside. You stay inside. And I think many people are starting to realize that. I read the last couple of days that the Philippines is planning on setting up many, many more testing centers, and one even at Mactan International Airport, and I presume at the Manila Airport as well, so that they can do a rapid test on tourists as they're coming in. Presently, still, they're not handing out visas yet, so unless you're a spouse of a Filipino, you're not allowed to travel in here. Hopefully, after June, they'll start opening up that at least a little bit and start issuing visas and start extending. I know there are many expats here in the Philippines who are due to extend their visas and or leave the country. So hopefully that all will start happening in the early part of June. As far as other travel restrictions, if you want to go to a resort or different islands, they still have not opened up the ferries, the water ferries, that type of thing. So hopefully going into July, mid-June, July, they'll start opening those things up and start allowing a certain amount of travel. I really expect it's going to be late July or August before those types of things open up, but keep your fingers crossed. They should be opening up hotels hopefully in June as well as the ability to rent units out. Hopefully that'll take place. I have a couple of friends who have units in town, Cebu City area, and I've been checking around a little bit, and I know that some of the prices are coming down. So here in the next week or so, I will put up a video and just give you a little bit more idea what I'm seeing out there and give you some details on some of the units as well. There are also units for sale. Got a couple friends that want to sell units, so if anybody's looking for property, might be a good time. I am not in the real estate business. I'm not a broker, not involved at all in the real estate business. But I do have friends that, through my travels, understand that they would rent or sell units. So I would be willing to put you in touch with those people, and that's as far as I get involved in it. One thing about traffic in the Philippines, many places, every little area is a little bit different. A lot of motorbikes here, but it's different than Vietnam, different than Thailand, and not very much enforcement of rules here. Hello. Lane lines are barely more than suggestions, and if there's 2 lanes, they will make 3 lanes out of it or 4 lanes. And actually, unlike the U.S., maybe some other countries, very little road rage. There's a little bit longer honks than normal. There's a little bit of that. Occasionally, there's might be people getting down and somebody bumps somebody, a little fisticuffs or something, but very, 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 very rarely. And people look out for each other. They move over. In fact, it really amazes me. When I first came here, I started intentionally looking for vehicles with dents in them, and very seldom. You would think people would be bumping into each other, like bumper cars all day long, and see very, very few vehicles with dents, any type of body damage, which really surprised me. We have a group called Ancas here. Ancas, which is a ride sharing. You can get an app on your phone and call them up just like a Grab car. Now, Grab doesn't have the motorbike taxis here. Grab has motorbike taxis in Vietnam, but they have Grab cars here, and Grab has motorbike delivery. If you order something, they'll bring you food or a parcel or whatever. You can use them for that. but Grab at this point in time does not have that. Ancus is the one. There's another one or two operating in town like that, and not real sure if they are licensed. They actually shut down about 7-8 months ago. They shut down all the motorbike taxis. That worked for a week or two, and then they started back up on their own, even though they were illegal, because there's millions of people depending upon that for income, millions more depending upon it for rides. So it kind of started up, and then Congress finally passed a law giving ANCUS like a 6-month trial run. Then they've extended it since then. But during this present lockdown, there are no taxis in operating. There are no buses for the most part. There are some free buses running for frontline workers and other necessary things. But the bus routes, they're going to start them outside of Cebu City, I think, in the week or so. And hopefully in the next month, they'll start the buses up here in Cebu City again. But anyway, it's a strange situation that we live in presently. Pretty much all forms of transportation were shut down. Now, some parts of the Philippines, they are allowing tricycles back out in some areas, but they can only have one passenger, I believe. I think taxis in some areas where they're starting up can only have 2 passengers. Buses and jeepneys where they're operating are about 50% capacity. They've talked about giving the drivers of jeepneys and buses a salary, because they certainly aren't going to make enough money by passengers if they can only have 50% of the normal fares. Now, this driver told me he knew where he was going, told him what my destination was, but he made a turn where he shouldn't have made a turn, so I run him down a shortcut, and we're taking the longer short way home. I guess that's how you would describe it, to an industrial area here. These motorbike taxis, or habal as they're called, always carry an extra helmet, and of course you have to decide whether you want to wear that helmet or go buy your own. You can get a relatively inexpensive one, I think, but then you get to carry them around, especially with the present medical situation. Do you want to be handling? Do you want that helmet that other people have been using? Do you want your hands and your face around that thing? Probably not. So when things loosen back up, I'll probably buy myself a helmet. In one of my upcoming videos too, it's going to be more. I've got a lot of questions for other expats who are experienced and know a lot more about than I do about a number of issues, and I can research things online, but a lot of times the experience people have out there is worth a lot more than articles you can read online. And a lot of these articles you find online, there's no date there. You don't know if they're 1 year old, 5, 10 years old, so you don't know how old the information is. And I've been doing some research on a couple topics, and that was my issue. I was finding some interesting information, but I have no idea if it's 10 or 20 years old. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please stay safe, stay healthy out there, get some sunshine, get some of that vitamin D, and we'll see you next time.